Yogi and I just harvested elderberries. So now we are going to process them and make elderberry syrup, dried elderberries, and elderberry tincture. Last year, I only made elderberry syrup and it was really good. However, like 3 months into it, I thought it was gonna last 6 months, and 3 months later, it went bad and I had to throw it out. And that was a really sad day. So this year, I am going to do some things that will have a better shelf life. I'm still gonna make the syrup, but the dried elderberries, they will last longer. I'll be able to put them in a jar, stick them up there with my herb teas, and blend them in the recipes. And that'll add a boost for the immune system and some extra flavor. And then the tincture will be great to travel. I might have some friends that will be interested in the tinctures, so it'll be easy to gift. It'll have a long shelf life and easy to make, super easy to make. I'll show you. Now, I don't know if you've ever eaten elderberries, but they don't taste very good, which to me says it's the plant saying, you don't want to eat me like this, you want to process me in a different way. Because from what I've read, it didn't happen. I've eaten them, I tried them, they did not taste good. However, the toxicity is supposed to be mostly in the stem and the branches, but it is said they're toxic and they can make you feel nauseous when you eat them raw. But I have a friend here in the Ozarks and they say that they grew up eating them right off the tree. So maybe if you grow up doing that, your body just adapts possibly. But I'll show you how I'm processing them. I have my bowl and just taking them out of the basket. So what I did is when I harvested them yesterday, I laid them out on the bench outside and let all the critters run off. So I just let them sit out there all day. And then I brought them in and I've just been pulling them off. I did see someone online use a fork and they took the fork and they just dragged it to pull them off. And that seems to work fine. I just don't like the way it feels. It just feels like it feels like I'm combing someone's hair that's really tangled and I'm just ripping through their hair. And it's also some of the little tiny, I don't know if you can see that, but the little tiny branches, I don't even know if you can see it. They're so thin, they're getting in there more than when I use my hands. So I don't like using the fork, I don't like the way it feels. I like the way this feels, like this is kind of fun. They're soft, they're not mushy. They come off really easily. I like the hands-on experience of interacting with the plant and just kind of meditative. So those come off really easy. You can see they're just beautiful. I then put them into the strainer. I rinsed them off. I love this strainer. This has been, every time I use it, when Rich was, after I got it, he was in here and I was like, my strainer is a game changer. I absolutely love this strainer. I put them in here, I sprayed them off, and then I patted them dry, but I used this. I didn't want to use a napkin since napkins or paper towels are processed with formaldehyde, and I didn't want to use that. So I used this brown towel and I patted them dry, and now I put them out on a single layer. They're gonna go in the oven. I have it on the dehydrate setting. If you don't have a dehydrate setting, you could just set your oven to 115 or 120, keep the door cracked. Keep an eye on them. You don't want to burn your elderberries. I don't think burnt elderberry is gonna taste very good. Burnt elderberry tea, that's what we're advertising. Let's have some of that, yeah. So I'm gonna just keep it in there. I'm gonna keep checking it every 10 minutes. I think in about an hour or so it should be done. This is the first batch I'm putting in though, so I'm not 100% sure. And then I have quite a few that I'm gonna dry. I would like to have a jar full, so I'm gonna fill this jar. This jar is actually gonna be, these are gonna go in my tincture jar, but this jar, this is my Live Life juice jar. And I don't know, can you see the label? This is a company in Chico, California that I love. They also have a store in Orville. So if you are ever in Orville, California or Chico, California, go to Live Life Juice because they're amazing. And now I live in the Ozarks and I have to drive over 30 hours to get to Live Life Juice. Maybe someday they'll open a store up in like Memphis and I can cruise over there and stock up on my Live Life Juice. Anyway, there's my sidetracked mind. Okay, so for the tincture, I'm going to about 3/4 of the way. I'm gonna put the berries in there. Maybe a little bit more. I'll probably use a bigger jar actually, since I have so many. And I'm gonna use this vodka. I don't drink vodka, however, I did back in the day, don't anymore. This is 80 proof. So it says 40% alcohol on it, which means it's 80 proof, and you want at least 80 proof for your tincture, because you don't want anything, you know, there's gonna be high water content in the plant material when you make a tincture. And this alcohol is going to make sure that you don't grow fungus in there. And it's also going to help pull those properties, the beneficial properties, out of the plant. So, and that reference of proof, 80 proof, 100 proof alcohol, that comes from what I've read, that comes from when they were taxing alcohol, when they started taxing it, and they would take some gunpowder and they would put some gunpowder in the alcohol and they would light it. And if it lit on fire, they'd say, okay, there's a high alcohol content mixed in with that water, so we're gonna put higher taxes on the alcohol. So this, if it's 40% alcohol, so it's by volume is what it's referencing, it's 80 proof. If it's 50% alcohol, it's 100 proof. If it's 60% alcohol, it's 120 proof, etc. So that's, in case you weren't aware of that. There's a little mini lesson on something that I know not a lot about. But enough to get by. This is the echinacea tincture that I got going right now. So you can see there's room in there for it to kind of move around, and I keep shaking it daily to make sure that nothing that's sitting on the top is going to grow any sort of fungus. So every day I shake that up. This one, oh no, this one is dandelion oil. So these are dandelions mixed in oil because I'm going to make a lotion with that like I did last year. And a salve. The toothache plant, this is the first year I've done toothache plant, and the blooms are really trippy. Can't really see now, they're just kind of lost their vibrancy and their color, but you can see there's a lot of space in there, and that's because the way the toothache plant is producing the two that I have, you know, I keep pulling those blooms off and it keeps producing more. So I put extra alcohol in this jar and I just keep adding them to it. And when you make a tincture, you want it to sit in the alcohol for 6 weeks. So I'm not going to start that 6-week timeline until I'm done adding the toothache plant blooms. So I think I'm ready to put this in, and then I'm going to kick over to my tincture, and then I'll have elderberry to boost the system. So in case you don't know, elderberry is really great for your immune system. So if you're going to be taxing your system in some way, running around, you're not getting good sleep, and you just want to be proactive, or you notice something coming on, then you can take some elderberry syrup, kind of like echinacea, same idea, and that'll help boost your system and maybe stop anything in its tracks before it gets out of control. So that's my amazing story about elderberries. Thanks for hanging out. Goodbye.